the platform. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. We are using two different platforms today. For Instagram, Lorenzo and I will be looking here. For Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, we will be looking here. So you'll probably be seeing us looking around on both sides. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you can hear us clearly on all the different platforms as where we are live. Okay, without further ado, I just want to set up the stage why we are here. This is Nabil Khan. This is the show is called Homeowner. And I'm excited to join by Lorenzo from Sharp Appraisal. Before I bring Lorenzo to stage, I wanna set up for Lorenzo that Lorenzo's been in the business for almost 20 years. I've read your profile on sharpappraisal.ca. Lorenzo, you are a phenomenal individual, and we're excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, you kidding? It's great to be here, Nabil. I always love doing this for my friends and my coworkers. So anything I can do to help and inform the public is my pleasure.
Awesome, perfect. So the reason for having you here, Lorenzo, is because we do a lot of mortgages, and what we start to hear is many times I hear from my team and a lot of different real estate professionals is that the appraisals are coming short. The appraisals came low, so the appraisal did not meet the target, right, from the purchase price. So we start to see that appraisal guy or gal is somebody at the back end who did something and the appraisal did not come, right? So the reason for today is help us out with the whole appraisal process. So there's a bit of a questions which I would like to ask you, and then you can walk us through, okay, what's happening and where in the appraisal process. So let's start with the question. You okay to start a bit of a Q&A?
Yeah, sure. Let me just tell you a little bit about my background so
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
everybody knows. I'm a real estate appraiser. I've been an appraiser now for almost 22 years. I hope there's no feedback. Do you have any feedback? Is my voice
No, I'm
okay?
good. I'm good so far.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So my background has always been in real estate. Ever since I graduated in school, I've been in the construction industry with a family-owned business. From there, I went into the real estate business as a realtor. I still hold my real estate license, but I don't practice, real estate. My hat goes off to all the realtors out there. That's a tough world.
It is.
Then in about 22 years ago, I became an appraiser almost by fluke. And ever since then, I progressed. I went for all my licensing. And 22 years later, I've opened up my own firm. So I've seen everything, but let me start by saying I've never, ever seen anything like we're going through right now. So it's
Wow.
very, very uncertain
Wow.
times right now.
Wow. Yeah. It's a special. I mean, for a lot of people who are been in the industry for a long time are seeing a different atmosphere. And quite frankly, a lot of people have not seen anything else because
Yeah.
if they've been in the industry for the last 6 7 years, it's just gone up and up, so they have not known anything better, right? So this is where the values of appraisals are such an important point, and I really want, because these questions get asked to me many times. There's so many transactions that my team does. What happens with the mortgage, appraisals and so on. So let's dive in. let's
Sure.
let's see what the question people have asked me to ask you. It is all right. Let's start with this. What do you look for when you go for an appraisal, a property? What do you look for? Let's. It's a very generic question, but let's see. What do you purpose look for?
Sure. So there's a large process that goes into the appraisal process. One of the most interesting ones is going to do what we call a site visit. Site visit means that we come to the property and we take a look at the outside and the inside. So obviously, first impressions are always most important as well. What we're seeing when we go to the house. How's the landscaping? Is there are any improvements from the outside, which is sometimes a reflection of what happens inside the house.
Right.
So one of the main things that we look at is the orderly of the house, the cleanliness of the house, any upgrades and features of the house. But it's important if you're getting an appraisal done on your home to make sure that it's clutter free, as if you're staging the house for sale.
Nice. Okay. Well, good point. Good
Yeah.
point. Because so you're saying that, I mean, the curb appeal matters. How the house look from outside does matter. It kind of gives you a good indication of how house will be from inside. I think well said.
Sure. That's what we call our curb appeal. How does that compare to the other homes in the
Yeah.
neighborhood?
Yeah, no, well said. You also talked about decluttering, I heard, and this is the word I've heard from a lot of industry professionals, I have a lot of real estate friends, I would say them. I work very closely with them, and they talk about decluttering at all a lot. So I think this is a key point for all the audiences on Instagram, on Facebook. I think when you're hearing, just keep an eye on declutter. Okay, well, good question. I think this is a good to start and get us going.
Now
Um,
we're trained we're trained to see behind the clutter, but it's good that if everything's like if the kitchen is organized and nothing on the kitchen counters and things like that.
got it. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. What a second question, which I think people have also asked me: what happens, or how come sometimes appraisals are coming less than the purchase price, or sometimes they are more? That's a very deep
Yeah.
question. What do you think on that?
That's see, you have to remember when we do an appraisal process, an
Yeah,
appraisal on a property, we look at what's happening in the industry, what's
yeah,
happening on the street, what's happening in the neighborhood.
yeah.
Now, our job is to take that information, analyze it, and come out with a figure. So, what we're finding right now, especially in this market, is that the prices are fluctuating up and down all the time. So, what our job is to take all that data and try to compare apples to apples. Is are the homes that we're inspecting and the homes that we're comparing to the same thing? If they're not, we have to make adjustments up and down, which might explain why a value might come in at a certain price. Like someone may have a 3,000 square foot home and they might be comparing their house value to something that's sold for, let's say, a 4,000 square foot home, which is going to be
Right,
a vast difference in price. So
right.
our job is to consolidate that to make it all in one platform.
Yeah. Do you hear, especially these days, Lorenzo, especially in today's market, do you hear appraisers are different than the purchase price?
Absolutely.
Do
Yeah,
you
and
hear that?
yeah, it goes back to what we call the principle of substitution. On what we look at what other homes are selling for, and
Right,
we compare them to. What we're finding a big difference is when on the preemptive offers.
right.
When a preemptive offer comes in, we're finding that those prices are higher than if it was on the market for 3 to 5 days.
So think of this now. I want you to go ahead while I'm going to tap on my password on something. But for the audience, what's a preemptive offer? Let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
So a preemptive offer, when we look at the MLS listing,
Yeah,
and it says that preemptive offers are available on April the 10th, but
yeah,
preemptive offers are welcome. So here
right,
we are on April the 6th. So
right,
my buyer comes in with an offer ahead of everybody else,
right.
hoping to beat, all the competitive bids. And
Yeah,
their offer might be higher than what somebody else may offer. So a preemptive offer just
right.
means that it's prior to the date that I'm offering it on the real estate.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Okay, great point. Moving on to our follow-up question after this, which came to me again, was I don't know how would you answer this question, but what is a bad appraisal and a good appraisal? That's the question someone asked me. I don't know. I don't know
It
if
all
that
de-
means anything.
it all depends. If the value comes in, it's a great appraisal. If the value doesn't, it's a bad appraisal, right? Um,
Yeah,
I guess a good appraisal to me would be to make sure that the appraiser or the appraisal process was done properly, where they examined all the homes in that neighborhood and they compared apples to apples. You don't want, when you get an appraisal, and I'm sure you've seen many appraisals where you see so many fluctuation in price. So let's say, for example, the purchase price is let's say 1 million, and you have comparables that range from 800,000 to 1.2. That's a big range. You want to try to find homes that are all more or less on the same value range, because
yeah,
that would indicate that the houses are somewhat the same. So
mm,
what you're looking in a good appraisal, you're looking for comparables that are in the neighborhood, number one. Comparable living floor space area is the same, like you're comparing a two-story to a two-story. If it's 2,000 square feet, you're trying to keep all the homes within that range.
yeah. Look, fair. Well
Uh,
said.
A bad appraisal would be one where the you're in a tight neighborhood, but they're finding homes that are 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers away, just to make the value go up or down.
Perfect. Okay. Um, another follow-up question is, what happens when the appraisal come low? What options would the customer might have if the appraisal are coming low? Do they have any option to have a conversation with you or anything?
Absolutely, absolutely. We try to limit our conversation with the applicant. It's our client is the bank or the broker, but we're always open to discussion because we're human. We might have missed something. If for whatever reason your appraisal comes lower than what you expected, it's good to arm yourself with comparables that are similar to the property that you're questioning. For example, we may come up with a value of a home, and again, I'll use 1 million as a figure, and then let's assume that the client thinks it's worth more. We'll go and they're arguing or they're contesting the report. We'll ask them, okay, send me some comparables. The worst thing to do is send 20 comparables
Right.
that are 5 bedrooms, 4,000 square feet, when your home is, a 3 bedroom,
Mhm.
2,000 square feet, just to bring the price up. It's good to arm yourself with the information yourself.
Mhm. Makes sense. There are a couple of questions which I think Waleed is saying on LinkedIn is, I'll come back to it in a second. It's saying regarding, what would you say on this regarding the appraisal? 800K to 1.2 million is not necessarily a large range. Is that a question or a comment? What would you?
It's
It's more of a comment, I guess, right, Waleed? I think this is what you're trying to say,
well,
that this is not a large range; it's a decent amount of range. I think
oh
this
no,
is what
that's a huge range.
it's
That's
a
a
huge
huge
range.
range. Your
Yeah.
product that you're going to get for $800,000 is going to be much different than your product you get for 1.2 million.
Hmm.
So if you're looking at a house that's 1.1 million, an $800,000 home is going to be a different product. It might be a 3 bedroom compared to a 4 bedroom.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. No, this is good. So follow up question would be, yeah. Thanks, Waleed. Waleed is right. It's a comment. So thank you, Waleed, for that. Moving on to a follow up question by Omara. I think it's also a good question which Omara wants to know that. I'm just going to put that question on the screen here. Where it's inside here. 1 second. Okay. It's a good question too. Just a quick question. Why do we need appraiser? So
Oh,
I,
that's
I
a very good
think,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I guess the reason most banks or most lenders request an appraisal is to make sure that the market estimate of value is there. Face it, we live in an industry where there's a lot of fraud,
Hmm.
and especially if you're a private lender, let's assume it's your money that you're investing, and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, my house is worth $1 million, and I need a first mortgage for $800,000." And let's say you have that money, and you say, "Sure, you seem like a good guy, Nabil. I'm going to give you, $800,000 mortgage." But that house may only be worth 900,000 or 800,000. So it's good to get a more realistic value of the home. So when you're investing the money, the bank or your money is covered. You're not putting it at risk.
Right.
So our job is try to give a reasonable value on what that property is worth.
Got it. No, perfect. Thanks, Waleed, for the question. Thanks, Mara, for the question. Laura wants to ask a question. Laura DiPrio, a very good friend of mine. Any thoughts on the market cool down? That's one of the questions which I also have for you. So why don't we ask right now? Any thoughts on the market cool down, or do you see any appraisers coming in a different way?
We see the market. Okay, the market always fluctuating, and I know right now because of the rise in interest rates,
Yeah.
we see the homes being on the market staying longer.
Mhm.
Maybe instead of being sold in 0 to 3 days, they're selling, maybe 5 to 8 or 5 to 10 days. It doesn't mean that in my opinion, the market's cooling. I think we're getting more listings on the market, but we still have a lot of buyers. Still, I'm
Right.
still I'm still seeing the prices elevated. I haven't seen prices drop.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you because I was reading a stat today as well. It was a research that came out, and it's all on public information. The appreciation of the houses were 23% last year,
Yeah.
from 2020 to 2021. We're still expecting an appreciation of 2021 to 2022 for about almost 11.5%. So this is expectation. So I don't think I've heard any of the prices going, lower than that. I mean, Yes, I've heard more inventory. Yes, I've heard more bidding happening for sure. Lesser bidding, my apologies, but it's absolutely still a very good market for everybody to be
It's
out there.
still a strong market. We're not seeing, well, personally myself, I'm not seeing the prices where they're selling $400,000 over list price.
Right.
Might be at 200,000 over list
Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
become a little bit more normalcy out there.
Yeah, perfect. Good question also came through Instagram. So now I'm going to look towards Instagram. Some challenges you face for rental appraisal. Any advice you want to give it to rental appraisal? Is there anything different
Yep.
you notice? Yeah. Oh,
Access,
wow.
access to the
Let's,
property. Getting
let's talk about
access to
that.
the property is our biggest issue with rental properties,
Right.
because you may have two or three tenants in there, and then
Right.
getting access to the same at the same time is always cumbersome.
Hmm.
And then you might have some people who keep the unit well organized, and other people are, other units may say, hey, how quick can I get you out of here? You walk inside the apartment and they already want you out. So access is the most important.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you for the question, Sukhmeet. Thank you. Zain wants to know how appraisal work on new builds. So new pre-construction, how does appraisal work on those?
On the Well, we normally end up into the appraisal process near the end of the stage, when the house is 97% complete.
Got it.
That's typically when we go into the house to do it. So what we're seeing is that a house that was purchased 2 years ago,
Right.
the price has escalated 30, 40, even 50%.
Hmm.
So our goal is try to come up with a realistic value on what is that property worth today, not what they purchased it 2.5, 3 years ago.
Got it. Perfect. So it's a great question, great answer because
Yeah.
there are a lot of pre-construction, especially in GTA market. There's a lot of work that gets done, and you're saying you come at the very end before the purchasing or the lending, what the value stand instead of the value that goes before that.
Correct.
Perfect point. Yeah, a couple more questions I have for you. I know folks have been sending me a lot
Yeah,
of stuff.
no.
Um, what would you say? Somebody's asking me, how do we get the best value in home appraisal? So I think the question here is, how do we get the most appraised value? I think you kind of touched base on that a little bit, but let's go to that again now.
So, if I'm hearing the question correctly, I mean, you have to remember we have to compare all the data we have in the neighborhood in order to get a better value for your home. It's better to invest in the home and have the proper features, like if you paint the house,
Hmm.
change your kitchen, uh, upgrade your bathrooms. That will elevate the cost, the value of your home.
Right.
Um, so that's the best way to increase the value of your home. But don't forget, we have to compare what's going on in the neighborhood.
Hmm. Key point. Okay. Well, good point. Okay, I know this is a lot of information. Honestly,
Yeah.
I am learning a lot, even though I know a lot of my team members also joined this program, and I know a lot about appraisals too. But again, hearing from you and as a industry expert is the key, and that's why we're happy to have you. Another question. It's such a nice question here, and let's hear this from you. What to avoid before the home appraisal? So before you're coming, what should be avoided? Let's talk about that.
Oh, I guess expectations, expectations on the value of your home, and say, hey, I think my home is worth $2 million, and trying to prompt, the appraiser. I guess some of the other things you want to avoid is having a messy home, which we
Right.
touched on earlier.
Right.
You want to make sure that we have complete access to the entire house.
Right.
And what you would like to do is, if you've done any feature upgrades in the last 2 or 3 years, there's no reason why you shouldn't tell the appraiser, hey,
Right.
I have a new roof I installed
Right.
2 years ago.
Right.
By the way, we renovated our kitchen 3 years ago.
Right.
Upgrade yourself with what you've done to the house.
Got it. So it's good to tell you because when I bought my house and an appraiser came in, I thought I was buttering it up. So I'm like, you know what? Let's not tell him. But I think you're saying it's a good idea to do that. I think it's such a good
Yeah,
point for the
yeah.
listeners
What's
too.
a good idea is even writing it on a piece of paper, and
Yeah.
just say, hey, listen, I know you're busy, but just to
Right.
let you know, this is what we've done in the past 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Thank you very much. We take it. We have it in our file. We can read it.
Great
As
point.
opposed to as opposed to following around the house and say, oh, look, there's a new skylight. Oh, I changed this. So.
Well, let me tell you a secret, my friend. I did that. I did that. I
Oh,
was
did
following
you?
the appraiser. Hey, listen, if you back in the days, I'm like, listen, I got it for 500,000. You better give me 500,000. the challenge that happens is if appraisers the value does not come in, then on the lending side there's a lot of down payment gap, and this is where we start to get the positioning of how are we going to get the down payment, and that's why I want the audience to worry about that piece, right? There is a question that comes around. What about the primary residence and Airbnb? Is there anything you want to talk about that? Do you guys do that?
I very rarely come across Airbnb.
Hmm.
I have down in downtown Toronto on certain condominium units,
Okay.
condos. Some condos I've seen Airbnb, but I've already come across that.
Rarely do that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. Thanks for the question. Another question from our LinkedIn user is, what's a reasonable time frame for a full appraisal completion report? That's $1 million question for my business, I gotta tell you, because a lot of deals come in, appraisers are busy, reports take a little bit long. What's a reasonable time frame you think it is?
Well, that's a great question. A reasonable time right now, we're running anywhere between 6 to 8 business days between
Yeah.
start to finish.
Right.
Okay, to get an appraisal done.
Yeah.
There are ways that if you need it done faster, you pay a rush fee.
Yeah.
And that can vary anywhere between $200 to $500, depending on the firm you're working with.
Right.
We strive for a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time from the time we get into the house. So there's
Right.
two different parts of that question. One is how long does it take you to get into the property, which
Right.
could be 4, 5, 6 days.
Right.
But then after I've gone into the property, we try to get a report into your hands, Nabil, within
Yeah.
24 to 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
means completing all the research, the analysis, and getting a report to you.
Yeah, no, it's a great point you make, because there are a lot of deals that come our way. There are too many appraisal. Sometimes issues happen. They're delayed and what have you. But I think it's a good idea to get a decent understanding how long does the process normally takes, right?
Yeah.
Last question I have for you. I think you've been phenomenal, by the way. I really really I'm happy to have you, and I'm getting so many questions. And this is where normally you try to finish it quickly, but I want people to ask the questions from you. So another
Sure.
question somebody's asking is, do you think that the appraisal can come lower than the purchase price on the new build?
Honestly, right now, I haven't seen that. Unless
Yeah,
unless you're buying something today and the market corrects itself 2 years from now. But I can confidently say 99% of the homes that we've have appraised that were purchased, 2 years ago are
right.
coming well above. Condominium market is a little bit different. I've come to
Right.
some instances where,
Right.
especially downtown in the higher end condos, that
Yeah.
were almost at even Steven.
Right. Nice. Okay. Lorenzo, I will probably take a last question, and before I go to the audience, if they have any more questions, what do you see the next few months? I think you kind of touched base that already, but do you see in today's market, do you see somebody bought a property for $1 million and the appraisals are coming for 900,000? Are you starting to see that a little bit?
Not right now. What I'm seeing is, well, let me rephrase that. Some of the homes that we saw purchased back in February and they're appraising now, they have dropped. I have seen that. I've seen that in some instances
Okay.
where the price is lower because we have more data right now.
Hmm.
But what I'm seeing in the future is I'm still seeing the prices. I don't see a drop in the market considerably. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I
Right.
don't. But demand is still there.
Yeah.
Buyers are still, interest rates are
Yeah.
still low, in my
Yeah.
opinion. 4% interest rate is still low compared to
Yeah.
what we had back 8, 9, 10%.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we have a lot of immigration coming into
Right.
Canada right now. So I think the prices are still going to stay,
Yeah.
high.
Yeah, so it's such a good point you make, because this is the question we get asked all the time. Nobody has a crystal ball, but when you put two and two together, the rates are start to rise up a little bit. We talk about it, still very low compared to back in the days, right? Plus, we have inventory coming in the market, but there's a lot of Canadians who been in the pandemic for a couple of years. There's that money is also going to come into the housing
Yep.
market. I've also read from the economics report recently. So I don't see where people are getting some sort of worried the appraisal is going to come too far away. It's always good to have. I always talk about a good mortgage lender, good realtor, good appraiser, people who are informed and knowledgeable in the market, to have a relationship with them so that they can guide you accordingly. But I think that what really matters is, just do the research, do the homework before we play that game, right?
Yeah, and if I can recommend one thing is if you're gonna buy a house, when you buy your house,
Right.
don't wait 2 3 months to get the appraisal done. Get it done, in my opinion, get it done as soon as possible because you're comparing the prices within that same marketplace.
No, this
Because
is such a good point.
if the market does drop,
Right.
you're 3 months down the road and you're not overpaid. You've paid a certain amount for that house, and then the
Right.
market's dropped. We're forced to look at those comparables of that
Yeah.
month, of that
Yeah.
inspection time.
Yeah. So the key point here is for a lot of our customers or anybody who buy the home and closing is at 3 months or 4 months, don't wait.
Yeah,
Just
don't wait.
get the process going, get the approvals done, get the appraisals organized, and get the process going. Because sometimes no one does it, but if somebody is in a mind, okay, you know what, I'll probably do it 3 months from now, my closing is later, that becomes a little bit too late. And the policies can change, rates can go
Yeah.
up, world, there's too much can go on. So this is amazing, Lorenzo. I could not believe it's been 28 minutes. We initially talked about we'll try to wrap it up in 10-15, but you've been phenomenal, and the questions people are asking is also very, very interesting, especially in this market. This is a very hot topic, and this is why I want you to come and talk about it. So why don't you take a couple of minutes in closing? Anything you want to tell the listeners? Any remarks? Anything on your mind, Lorenzo?
You know what? Thank you very much for having me, Nabil. I love doing this. I mean, it's a great for educating and letting people know what we do out there and answering these great questions. All I can say is that if you are getting an appraisal done on your home for financing, or you've purchased a house, reach out to your professionals, your mortgage brokers, your realtors for information. Make a logical decision, and do it quickly. Don't wait till the last minute, because it causes you money, expense, and you don't know how the market is going to react.
Right. No. So thank you so much, Lorenzo, for joining. Thank you for the Instagram listeners, everybody who was there on Instagram Live. I know we were looking mostly towards the laptop side of things,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for the great questions you have put it together. For all the users out there, I think there was a little bit delay in Facebook, but I think we got to it. And LinkedIn users, thank you so much for the questions. You can always reach out to myself, Nabil. Lorenzo on the sharpappraisal.ca is a great individual. Lorenzo, how would we type your site? Is it sharpappraisal.ca? Is that how we?
Yep. We go to www.sharpappraisal.ca,
Right.
and you'll see our site there. You'll see who my team is, what area we coverage, and our logo is sharp appraisal, sharp values, and
Right.
sharp service. So we
Wow.
do our best out there.
And
Yeah.
you're looking sharp as well, by the way. So a lot of
Thank you. Not
sharpness.
as
A
not
lot
as
of,
good as you though.
yeah, you're looking
Thank
sharp.
you.
So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, listener, for listening to us. And thanks, Lorenzo. It means a lot. Thank you,
It
sir.
was
Have
a
a great
pleasure.
day.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.